Stop. Before you book another overpriced flat in London, before you sign another lease you can't afford, before you cry into your £6 coffee, you need to hear this. Right now, thousands of people are quietly making a decision that financial advisors, governments, and your landlord absolutely do not want you to know about. They're leaving, not fleeing, choosing. And the destination? A country most people associate with rainforests and street food. Malaysia. Here's the question nobody's asking out loud. What if the United Kingdom, one of the most powerful economies in human history, is no longer the best place to actually live on your money? Let's be brutally honest about what's happening. The UK is one of the wealthiest nations on Earth. G7 member, former empire, home to the world's most recognized financial center. And yet, in 2025, a single person in London needs, on average, over £3,500 a month just to exist comfortably. Not thrive. Exist. Meanwhile, in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's gleaming, chaotic, extraordinary capital, that same lifestyle costs roughly £1,200. Maybe £1,400 if you're feeling fancy. That gap isn't a rounding error. That is a completely different life. This isn't just about cheap holidays or expat fantasies. This is about a fundamental shift in where human capital, savings, and ambition are flowing. And it's accelerating. Because when your pound buys 3 times more somewhere else, geography stops being a limitation and starts being a choice. So, let's break it down properly. Let's start with the most brutal number in British life. Rent. In London, the average one-bedroom apartment now runs you £2,200 a month. Outside London? Better, but not by enough. Manchester? £1,100. Bristol? £1,300. Edinburgh? Creeping up fast. In Kuala Lumpur, a modern, air-conditioned, fully furnished one-bedroom apartment in the city centre, KLCC, Bangsar, Makiara, will cost you between £500 and £750 a month. Some go higher, many go lower. And we're not talking about a bedsit with a shared bathroom and a radiator that only works on Tuesdays. We're talking about rooftop pools, gyms, concierge, the kind of building that in London would cost you £3,500 minimum and require a guarantor, 2 references, and a small sacrifice to the property gods. Think of it this way. In the UK, housing consumes roughly 40 to 50% of the average person's take-home pay. In Malaysia, for the same standard of living, you're looking at 15 to 25%. That's not a lifestyle upgrade. That's financial oxygen. But rent is just the start. In the UK, a basic weekly grocery shop for one person runs about £60 to £80. A meal out at a mid-range restaurant? £15 to £25 per person, before drinks, before service charge, before the quiet existential dread of checking your bank app afterward. In Malaysia, a full, flavor-loaded meal at a hawker center, the kind of food that would win awards in London, costs between £1 and £2. A proper sit-down restaurant meal? £5 to £12. And the food isn't a consolation prize. Malaysian cuisine is consistently ranked among the best in the world. You are not downgrading. You are upgrading and spending less. Transport? A monthly rail pass in London costs £160 to £260 depending on your zones. Kuala Lumpur's MRT and LRT network, modern, expanding, air-conditioned, will run you about £25 to £40 a month. Grab, Southeast Asia's answer to Uber, is shockingly cheap. A 20-minute ride across the city? Under £2. And healthcare, the thing Brits often use as the ultimate defense of staying put, is genuinely excellent in Malaysia and almost entirely out-of-pocket affordable. A GP visit without insurance costs around £15 to £30. Private hospital care, at facilities that are internationally accredited and genuinely world-class, costs a fraction of what you'd pay in the US, and for many treatments, less time waiting than the NHS currently offers. But here's where things get complicated, because this isn't purely about money. If it were, everyone would have moved already. The real reason this conversation is gaining momentum now is a combination of 3 forces hitting simultaneously. First, remote work made geography optional for millions of knowledge workers. A software developer in Kuala Lumpur earning a UK or US salary is, in purchasing power terms, wealthy. Genuinely, comfortably, stress-reducingly wealthy. Second, the UK's cost of living crisis didn't just spike. It embedded. Energy bills, mortgage rates, food inflation, council tax. These didn't return to normal. They recalibrated at a higher baseline. And people noticed. Third, Malaysia quietly launched and expanded the DE Ramp visa, the digital nomad visa, and its long-standing Malaysia My Second Home program, specifically designed to attract foreign residents with stable income or savings. The welcome mat is out. Officially. This is where the contradiction begins. The UK government talks constantly about attracting talent and retaining ambition. But the structural conditions, housing costs, tax burden, general cost of doing everyday life, are systematically pushing mobile, skilled people toward the exit. Let's talk tax. Because this is where the comparison gets particularly uncomfortable for the UK. In Britain, once you're earning above £50,270, you're paying 40% income tax on everything above that threshold. Add national insurance. Add the frozen personal allowance that's quietly dragging more people into higher brackets every year through fiscal drag. The actual take-home from a £70,000 salary is considerably less dramatic than the headline number suggests. Malaysia operates a progressive tax system that tops out at 30%, but crucially, the thresholds are structured very differently, and foreign-sourced income for residents under certain visa categories can be taxed at a flat, reduced rate. For remote workers and retirees bringing in income from abroad, the effective tax burden can be dramatically lower. Now, to be fair, and we should be fair, Malaysia has its own tax complexities, and anyone making a serious move should absolutely speak to a qualified cross-border tax advisor. This isn't a loophole paradise. But the direction of the numbers? Consistently, stubbornly in Malaysia's favor for people in specific income brackets. But here's the contradiction that nobody in this conversation wants to sit with honestly. The UK offers things Malaysia genuinely cannot match. Cultural infrastructure that took centuries to build. World-class universities. A legal system and property rights framework with enormous depth. A creative industry, a music scene, a pub culture. Fine laugh, but it matters to people. That is simply not replicable. And Malaysia has its own complexities. The political landscape has been turbulent. Racial and religious dynamics shape daily life in ways that a foreign resident will experience, whether they expect to or not. Infrastructure outside Kuala Lumpur varies enormously. The heat is relentless and the humidity is not a minor detail. It is a full-time atmospheric condition. So this isn't a simple Malaysia wins, UK loses story. That would be dishonest and boring. What it is a story about thresholds. At some point, and for a growing number of people that point is right now, the financial gap becomes so wide that it overrides the cultural attachment. When your money goes 3 times further, you start questioning which amenities you're actually paying for and which ones you just assumed were worth the premium. And Malaysia isn't alone in this conversation. Portugal figured this out years ago with its NCHAR tax regime. Thailand has been courting digital nomads aggressively. Dubai positioned itself as the zero-tax alternative for high earners. Georgia, the country, not the state, became a cult favorite for remote workers almost overnight. What's happening is a global competition for mobile humans. And that competition is intensifying. Countries that used to rely on the gravitational pull of legacy prestige, the idea that living in a world-class city was inherently worth the premium, are discovering that the premium has a ceiling. Push costs high enough for long enough, and the gravity weakens. The UK is not the only country facing this. France, Germany, Australia, all grappling with the same tension. But the UK's combination of high costs, high taxes, and a housing market that seems structurally immune to correction makes the pull toward alternatives particularly strong. What Malaysia represents in this context isn't just a cheaper option. It's a test case. A proof of concept that a middle-income, politically stable, internationally connected country can offer a genuinely high quality of life at a fraction of the price, and that people will notice. So what does this actually mean if you're sitting in Reading or Leeds or Glasgow right now? Not some tech millionaire, just a person trying to figure out whether your financial life is going to get better or just incrementally less bad. It means the calculation has changed. For a generation that grew up assuming that career success meant planting yourself in an expensive city and absorbing the costs as the price of ambition, the existence of places like Kuala Lumpur, modern, connected, affordable, genuinely exciting, is a direct challenge to that assumption. It means that if you have a skill that can be sold remotely, geography is now a financial decision, not a cultural inevitability. It means that retirement planning looks completely different when you factor in the possibility of retiring somewhere your pension goes twice as far. And it means that the conversation about where should I live has quietly, irreversibly, expanded beyond the borders most people assumed were fixed. Here's where we land. Two futures are being written simultaneously right now. In one version, the UK addresses its structural problems. Housing supply increases. The tax burden redistributes more fairly. The cost of ordinary life comes down enough that the country retains the skilled, mobile, ambitious people it needs to remain genuinely world-class. The gravity holds. In the other version, the slow bleed continues. Not a dramatic collapse. Britain is far too resilient for that. But a quiet, persistent outflow of people who did the maths, looked at the map, and decided that loyalty to a postcode isn't worth the financial penalty. And places like Malaysia, smarter, hungrier, explicitly welcoming, absorb that human capital and grow faster because of it. History doesn't announce itself. It accumulates in thousands of individual decisions made by people who just wanted their money to mean something. The question isn't whether Malaysia is better than the UK. That's a false binary, and you know it. The real question is, at what point does the gap stop being manageable and start being a choice you're making by not making a choice? So, I want to hear from you. Have you done this calculation? Have you looked at your monthly outgoings, looked at what that same money buys somewhere else, and felt that uncomfortable pull? Or do you think the UK's advantages, the culture, the institutions, the familiarity, are worth every pound of the premium? Drop it in the comments. Genuinely. Because the people watching this video are exactly the people this conversation is about, and I want to know where you stand. If this made you think differently about something you thought you'd already figured out, hit like, it helps more than you'd think. And subscribe, because we're going to keep pulling on threads that most channels won't touch. The world is reorganizing, and the people who understand that early, they tend to do just fine.